I still remember the exact moment my marriage began to die. Not the day I found out about the affair. Not the night he asked for a divorce. It was earlier than that, much earlier, when I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. My name is Emily, and for 12 years, I believed I was married to a good man. His name was Daniel. Daniel and I met in our 20s. We were young, hopeful, and painfully ordinary. No dramatic love story. No rich families or luxury vacations. Just two people who believed love meant loyalty, patience, and growing old together. At least I believed that. For the first few years, our life felt simple and warm. We built routines, Sunday breakfasts, late night movies, silly inside jokes. When Daniel held my hand, I felt safe. When he smiled at me, I felt chosen. I trusted him completely. And that was my biggest mistake. Things started changing slowly. So slowly that I almost blamed myself. Daniel began coming home late. At first, it was extra work. Then it was office dinners. Then it became silence. He would sit on the couch, scrolling through his phone, barely listening when I spoke. Daniel, I once asked gently, is something wrong? He didn't even look up. No. Just tired. Tired. That word became his shield. Every ignored question. Every missed anniversary. Every night he turned his back to me in bed. I told myself marriage goes through phases. I told myself love matures. I told myself I was being paranoid. I wish I had listened to that quiet voice in my chest that kept whispering, something isn't right. One evening, I cooked his favorite meal, garlic chicken with mashed potatoes. I even lit candles, trying to bring back what we once had. He arrived late, loosened his tie, and glanced at the table like it was a burden. What's all this? He asked. I thought we could have dinner together. I smiled nervously. Like old times. He sighed. Emily, I had a long day. That sigh hurt more than shouting ever could. I sat across from him, watching him eat without looking at me. My hands trembled slightly. Do you still love me? I asked, barely louder than a whisper. He froze. For a second, just 1 second, I saw something in his eyes. Guilt. Then it disappeared. Of course, he said quickly. Don't start this again. Again. As if my fear was an inconvenience. That night, he fell asleep instantly. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past year. Every cold reply. Every unanswered message. Every time he guarded his phone like it held state secrets. A week later, I accidentally picked up his phone. It buzzed while he was in the shower. The screen lit up with a message preview. I miss you already, L. My heart dropped so fast I thought I would faint. I didn't open the message. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just placed the phone back exactly where it was. Because some part of me was still desperate to believe there was another explanation. There wasn't. From that moment on, I watched him differently. I noticed the secret smiles. The way he stepped outside to take calls. The way he suddenly cared about his appearance. New clothes, new cologne, a haircut I had begged him to get for years. And still, he came home to me. Every night. One morning, as I folded laundry, he stood in the doorway with his hands in his pockets. His face looked serious, too serious. Emily, he said, we need to talk. Those 4 words are never harmless. I sat down slowly. What is it? He didn't sit. He paced. I've been thinking a lot, he began. About us. About my life. My heart pounded. I already knew where this was going. But hearing it out loud felt unreal. I think we've grown apart. I stared at him. 12 years, I said quietly. You don't just grow apart without a reason. He swallowed. I want a divorce. The room went silent. No shouting. No dramatic music. Just the sound of my heart breaking in real time. A divorce? I repeated. Yes, he said, avoiding my eyes. I'm not happy anymore. Not happy. That was it. I laughed softly. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Is she the reason? I asked calmly. He stiffened. Who? Don't insult my intelligence. I wanted to scream. The woman you're texting, I said. The one you miss already. He didn't deny it. Instead, he exhaled slowly, like a man relieved to stop pretending. Her name is Lena, he said. And yes, I care about her. Care. That word shattered whatever hope I had left. I nodded slowly. I see. He looked surprised by my calm. I don't want this to get ugly, he continued. We can be civil. We'll split things fairly. I stood up. You betrayed me, I said quietly. You lied to me. And now you want peace. He frowned. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. Of course not. I walked past him and went into the bedroom, closing the door softly behind me. I didn't cry that night either. Instead, I stared at myself in the mirror and whispered something I never thought I'd say. You don't get to destroy me and walk away untouched. Because while Daniel thought this story was about him choosing another woman, he had no idea what I was about to do next. And Lena, the woman who thought she had won, was about to be the most shocked of all. Little did they know, my silence wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of my revenge. The morning after Daniel asked for a divorce, I woke up before the alarm. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't filled with plans, worries, or excuses for his behavior. It was clear, sharp, painful, but clear. My marriage was over. Daniel slept beside me like nothing had happened, his back turned, his breathing slow and steady. I watched him for a long moment, memorizing the man I once loved. Then I got out of bed without making a sound. I made coffee. Black. No sugar. I needed to feel something strong. When Daniel finally came into the kitchen, he looked cautious, like a man approaching a wild animal. Morning, he said. Morning, I replied calm. He hesitated. About last night. I've been thinking, I interrupted, placing my mug down gently. You're right. His eyebrows lifted slightly. We have grown apart, I continued, and dragging this out won't help either of us. Relief washed over his face so fast it almost made me sick. I'm glad you understand, he said. I was worried you'd make this difficult. Make this difficult. I smiled. No, I said. I don't want to make it difficult at all. He didn't notice the way my smile didn't reach my eyes. Over the next few days, I became exactly what Daniel wanted. Reasonable, calm, cooperative. I agreed to talk to a lawyer. I discussed logistics. I didn't ask questions about Lena. I didn't beg. I didn't accuse. And that confused him. One night, as we sat across from each other discussing finances, he finally said it. You're taking this surprisingly well. I shrugged. What choice do I have? He nodded, satisfied. What he didn't know was that every polite word, every calm response, was fuel. Because inside me, something else was growing. Something cold. Something patient. I started paying attention, not to Daniel, but to her. Lena. I didn't stalk her online at first. I told myself I didn't care. That she was just a symptom, not the disease. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. One afternoon, when Daniel left his laptop open, a message popped up in the corner of the screen. Lena, did you talk to her yet? I hate waiting. I stared at the screen, waiting for my marriage to officially die. I closed the laptop without replying. Instead, I took a deep breath and did something unexpected. I searched her name. Lena was younger. Of course she was. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Long hair, bright smile. The kind of woman who took photos in coffee shops and wrote captions about self-love and new beginnings. The irony burned. She worked in Daniel's office. Same company, different department. I scrolled through her pictures slowly, carefully. She posted about honesty, about respect, about never settling for less. I laughed out loud. That night, Daniel didn't come home. He texted me instead. Daniel, I'll be staying out tonight. Don't wait up. I didn't reply. I knew exactly where he was. Instead of crying, I opened a notebook and wrote one sentence. If they think I'm weak, I'll use that. Days turned into weeks. The divorce process moved forward. Friends and family were slowly informed, always by Daniel first, of course. He just wasn't happy anymore. We drifted apart. It was mutual. Mutual. I let him control the narrative, at least for now. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. He looked nervous, excited. Both. There's something I should tell you, he said. I looked up from the couch. What is it? Lena and I, we're serious. I nodded slowly. I figured. She wants to meet you. The room tilted. Meet me? I repeated. Yes, he said quickly. She thinks it would help. For closure. To show there are no hard feelings. No hard feelings. I studied his face, searching for shame. I found none. Do you want to? He asked. I paused. Every instinct screamed no. Every ounce of pain told me to refuse. But then I imagined Lena's face. Confident, smug, curious. And I smiled. Yes, I said. I'd like that. Daniel looked relieved. She's actually very nervous, he added. She's afraid you'll hate her. I laughed softly. Tell her she doesn't need to worry. And I meant it. The cafe was modern and bright. Lena was already there when we arrived, sitting straight, hands folded around a cup of tea. She stood up when she saw me. "Emily," she said, smiling nervously. "It's nice to finally meet you." "Finally." I shook her hand. "You too," I said warmly. Daniel watched us closely, like a referee. "I just want to say," Lena began, "I never meant to hurt anyone. Things just happened." "Of course they did. I understand," I said gently. "Feelings are complicated." Her shoulders relaxed. "I was so afraid you'd be angry," she admitted. "Why would I be?" I replied. "You didn't make vows to me." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Lena blinked. "That's very mature of you." I smiled. We talked for nearly an hour. About work, about life, about moving forward. She told me how excited she was about her future with Daniel. I listened. At the end, she reached across the table and touched my hand. "I hope someday we can even be friends." "Friends!" I squeezed her hand back. "Maybe," I said. Life is full of surprises. As we walked out, Lena leaned into Daniel, smiling proudly. She thought she had won. She had no idea she had just stepped into my game. Because that meeting wasn't closure. It was the first move. And the next time I saw Lena, she wouldn't be smiling. Not when the truth started to surface. Betrayal revealed. After that cafe meeting, something changed. Not in Daniel. Not in Lena. In me. I stopped seeing myself as the woman who was abandoned. I stopped replaying memories of our wedding, our promises, our laughter. Instead, I watched. I listened. I waited. Because when people think they've won, they get careless. Daniel moved out a week later. He took his clothes, his books, and his guilt. Though I suspected the last thing was very light. The house became quiet in a way that felt strange but also powerful. For the first time in years, I was alone with my thoughts and my plan. Daniel and Lena didn't hide anymore. They didn't need to. He posted photos with her. Nothing too obvious at first. Just group dinners, office events, casual smiles. But I saw the comments. "Cute couple. So happy for you. About time you found real happiness." Every comment was another reminder of how easily people accept a lie when it's wrapped in a smile. One evening, Daniel called me. "I need a small favor," he said. I almost laughed. "What kind of favor?" "There are some documents I left at the house. Could I come by tomorrow?" "Of course," I said sweetly. "Anytime." When he arrived the next day, he looked different, lighter, freer, and that hurt more than I expected. As he searched through his old drawers, I leaned against the doorway, watching him. "You seem happy," I said casually. He smiled. "I am." "With her?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "I'm glad," I said. He looked surprised. "Really?" "Yes," I replied. Everyone deserves honesty. The word hung in the air. He didn't notice. Before leaving, he turned back. "Lena is moving in with me," he said. "I thought you should know." "Moving in. Already." "That's fast," I said calmly. "Life's too short to wait," he replied. I smiled politely and closed the door behind him. The moment he left, my smile disappeared. Because now, I was certain. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't something that just happened. It had been planned. That night, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Sarah, a former coworker of Daniel's. We had stayed friendly after she left the company. She replied within minutes. "Sarah. Emily? Wow. It's been a while. Is everything okay?" "Me? Not exactly. I wanted to ask you something. About Daniel." There was a pause. Then, "Sarah, I was hoping you wouldn't find out this way." My hands trembled. "Me? Find out what?" Her reply came slowly. "Sarah, Daniel and Lena have been together for over a year." A year. A full year of lies. I sat down hard on the couch, my heart pounding. "Me? He told me it just happened." "Sarah!" "I'm sorry, Emily. Everyone at the office knew. They were careful, but not careful enough." I closed my eyes. Every late night, every cold reply, every time he made me feel insecure, it wasn't confusion. It was deception. Me. Did it start before he asked for the divorce? Sarah. Long before. I thanked her and ended the conversation. Then I sat in silence, letting the truth sink in. I wasn't just betrayed. I was replaced. And that was when my pain turned into something sharper. Anger. Over the next few days, I gathered pieces of the puzzle. Not by spying. Not by hacking. Just by paying attention. Old emails Daniel forgot to delete from a shared account. Messages saved on a tablet he didn't remember syncing. Dates. Times. Hotels. Evidence. He had taken her on trips while telling me he was working late. He had celebrated her birthday while forgetting mine. He had promised her a future while lying next to me in bed. And the worst part, she knew about me. There were messages where she complained about waiting for him to be free, where she called me an obstacle, a responsibility, not a wife. I felt sick, but I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I did something they never expected. I invited Lena to my house, alone. She arrived nervous but smiling, carrying a bottle of wine. I hope this isn't weird, she said. Daniel said you were okay with everything. I am, I replied, opening the door wider. Please come in. We sat at the dining table where Daniel and I had shared so many meals. I just wanted to clear the air, I said calmly. Woman to woman. She nodded. I appreciate that. I really do. Tell me, I asked softly. When did you first fall in love with my husband? She hesitated. A few months before he asked for the divorce, she said carefully. I smiled. Are you sure? Her eyes flickered. Yes, she said. Why? I reached into my drawer and placed my phone on the table. Then I slid it toward her. On the screen was a message dated over a year ago. Daniel to Lena. I'll leave her soon. I promise. Lena's face went pale. She stared at the screen, then at me. Hi, I didn't know you had this, she whispered. Oh, I said gently. I have much more. Her confidence shattered in seconds. You lied to me, she said, her voice shaking. You said you were already separated. I leaned back, and you believed him without ever meeting me. Tears filled her eyes. Daniel said you were cold, she said weakly, that you didn't care anymore. I laughed softly. He said the same thing about you, I replied. Silence filled the room. In that moment, Lena realized something terrifying. She wasn't special. She was just next. And as she sat there, trembling, I leaned forward and said the words that would change everything. Now that we're being honest, there's something else you should know. Her eyes widened. What? She asked. I smiled. Daniel isn't the only one who's been lying. The turning point. Lena stared at me like she was trying to read my soul. What do you mean? She asked quietly. What else is there? I took a slow sip of water, letting the silence stretch. I wanted her to feel it. The weight, the uncertainty. You think Daniel left me because he fell in love with you, I said calmly. But that's not the full story. Her hands tightened around her wine glass. He told me everything, she insisted. He said your marriage was already dead. I nodded. That's what he needed you to believe. I stood up and walked toward the bookshelf, pulling out a thin folder I had prepared days ago. What's that? She asked, her voice uneasy. Truth, I replied. I placed the folder in front of her and opened it slowly. Inside were copies of emails, bank statements, and printed messages. Not everything. Just enough. Lena flipped through the pages, her breathing growing faster. These hotel bookings, she whispered. These dates. Yes, I said, while he was telling me he was working late. She looked up at me, tears forming. He told me he felt trapped, she said. He said you controlled everything. The money, the house. I almost laughed. Daniel hasn't paid a single mortgage installment in 3 years, I said calmly. This house? It's in my name. Her head snapped up. What? And the savings account he told you about? I continued. That's mine too. He emptied his own account a long time ago. Lena's lips parted, but no words came out. He needed someone younger, brighter, and more trusting, I said gently. Someone who wouldn't ask questions. She pushed the folder away, shaking her head. No. He said we'd start fresh, that he'd take care of everything. I leaned closer. Lena, I said softly, he's using you the same way he used me. That was the moment her anger replaced her fear. He promised me marriage, she said bitterly. Children. A future. I tilted my head. Did he ever show you divorce papers? She froze. No, she whispered. Because he never filed them, I replied. Not until last week. Her face crumpled. He said you were delaying it. I wasn't, I said. He was. Lena stood up abruptly, pacing the room. So I destroyed a marriage for nothing, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't correct her, because she hadn't destroyed it alone. He's with me right now, she said suddenly. He thinks I'm at yoga. I smiled faintly. Of course he does. She stopped pacing and looked at me. Why are you telling me this? She asked. What do you want? That was the question I'd been waiting for. I want honesty, I said. For once. From all of us. She scoffed. And then what? You forgive us. And no. I replied calmly. I move on. She studied my face, searching for sarcasm. She found none. You're not angry enough, she said. Oh, I am, I replied. I'm just done being loud about it. There was a long pause. Then she said something unexpected. I think he's still lying to both of us. I raised an eyebrow. What makes you think that? She pulled out her phone. He's been avoiding questions about money, she said. About timelines. He keeps saying soon. I nodded. That's Daniel, I said. Always soon. She looked at me again, her voice trembling. If I confront him, he'll twist everything. Yes, I agreed. He always does. Another silence fell between us. Then Lena took a deep breath. What do you suggest? She asked. I met her eyes. I suggest you don't confront him alone. Her eyes widened. You mean? I interrupted gently. You deserve the truth too. That evening, Daniel came home to Lena's apartment expecting comfort. Instead, he found both of us waiting. He froze the moment he saw me. Emily? He said sharply. What are you doing here? I stood up slowly. We're having an honest conversation, I said. Something you seem allergic to. Lena crossed her arms. Sit down, Daniel, she said. We need to talk. His jaw tightened. This is inappropriate, he snapped. Emily, you shouldn't be here. Oh, I think I should, I replied, considering you lied to both of us. He laughed nervously. Don't be dramatic. Lena held up her phone. Then explain this, she said, showing him the messages. His face drained of color. I can explain, he said quickly. I stepped closer. Go ahead, I said. Explain how you promised me loyalty and promised her marriage at the same time. He turned to Lena. She's manipulating you, he said. She's bitter. I smiled. Classic, I murmured. Lena's voice shook with anger. Did you ever plan to marry me? She demanded. Yes, he said immediately. Of course. Then why haven't you filed a divorce? She asked. Silence. I was waiting for the right time, he muttered. I laughed softly. The right time was whenever it benefited you, I said. Daniel's mask finally cracked. You both wanted too much, he snapped. I was under pressure. Lena stepped back, disgusted. So it's our fault now? She asked. He ran a hand through his hair. I never meant to hurt anyone, he said. That was when I spoke the words I had rehearsed 100 times. You didn't mean to, I said calmly. You just didn't care. The room fell silent. Daniel looked at me then, really looked at me, for the first time in months. You think you've won? He asked bitterly. I smiled. No, I said. I think you've lost. Because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. He had no one left to lie to. And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, Lena turned to him and said something that made his blood run cold. There's something else you should know, Daniel. He frowned. What? She looked at me, then back at him. I've already told your boss everything. Climax plus resolution. Daniel's face turned pale, the color draining from it as if someone had pulled a plug. What did you just say? He whispered, his voice barely audible. Lena stood firm, no longer the nervous woman who once sat across from me in a cafe pretending to be polite. I told your boss everything, she said again, slower this time. The affair, the lies, the fake business trips, the hotel bills you charged to the company. Daniel laughed suddenly, a sharp, broken sound. You're bluffing, he said, pointing at her. You don't have the courage. Lena reached into her bag and placed her phone on the table. I sent screenshots, she replied. Emails, receipts, voice notes, everything. His eyes darted to me. You put her up to this, he snapped. This is your revenge. I met his gaze calmly. No, Daniel, I said. This is accountability, something you've avoided your whole life. He slammed his fist on the table. You wanted this marriage to fail, he shouted at me. You were boring, predictable, always serious. The words echoed in the room. Lena looked at him in disbelief. So now it's her fault? She asked. Just like you told me your failures were her fault. Daniel stood up, pacing like a trapped animal. You both expected too much, he yelled. I was under pressure. I needed space. I stepped forward. You didn't need space, I said quietly. You needed honesty. And you chose lies instead. For the first time, Daniel looked afraid. Not angry, not defensive, afraid. Lena's voice cracked as she spoke again. Did you ever love me? She asked him. He hesitated. The hesitation was the answer. Her face hardened. I ruined my reputation for you, she said. I defended you. I believed every word. Daniel reached for her hand. Lena, listen. She pulled away sharply. Don't touch me, she said. I finally see you. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. I thought I was special, she whispered. I thought I was chosen. I nodded slowly. So did I said. Once. Daniel looked between us, realizing too late that his charm no longer worked. You think you won? He asked me bitterly. You'll still be alone. I smiled gently. Alone is better than being lied to every day. Lena grabbed her coat. I'm leaving, she said. And don't call me. Ever. Daniel panicked. You can't just walk away, he shouted. After everything. She paused at the door. Watch me. And then she was gone. The silence that followed was unbearable. Daniel collapsed onto the couch, rubbing his face. You destroyed my life, he muttered. I stood there for a long moment, then spoke softly. No, Daniel. I stopped letting you destroy mine. I walked toward the door. This is the last time we'll speak outside a courtroom, I added. He didn't stop me. The fallout was swift. Within days, Daniel was suspended from work. An investigation followed. Office rumors spread faster than facts ever do, and this time, he wasn't the hero of his own story. Friends who once laughed at his jokes stopped answering his calls. His family asked questions he couldn't answer, and the woman he left me for, gone. The divorce proceedings moved quickly after that. He tried to argue, tried to negotiate, tried to regain control. But control was the one thing he no longer had. When we sat across from each other in the lawyer's office, he looked exhausted. Smaller. Older. You really don't feel anything? He asked quietly. No regret. I thought for a moment. I regret trusting someone who didn't deserve it, I said. But I don't regret losing you. He looked away. When the judge finalized the divorce, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not happiness. Not triumph. Freedom. I kept the house. The peace. My self-respect. Daniel walked out with nothing but excuses. Months passed. I repainted the walls, changed the furniture, removed every trace of the woman who once begged for love in that house. I traveled alone for the first time in my life. I laughed again, real laughter, not forced smiles. One evening, a message popped up on my phone. It was from Lena. Lena, I moved to another city. New job. Therapy. I just wanted to say, thank you. You didn't humiliate me. You told me the truth. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then replied, me. Take care of yourself. We both deserve better. As for Daniel, the last time I heard about him, he was still trying to explain his side of the story. Still blaming circumstances. Still blaming women. Still blaming everyone but himself. And for the first time, I didn't care. Because the real shock wasn't my revenge. It was my reaction. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't fight to keep a man who didn't respect me. I walked away with my dignity. And that, more than anything else, was what truly shocked his mistress. TG end.